Remember that time we all decided to spend money? Yeah, me too. Almost as if it was yesterday. 2013 truly was a simpler time. You want to see my souvenir? Toys to Life games were a brief phenomenon starting from 2011 lasting until around 2016. For comparison, that's longer than 99% of Goldfish. The most popular ones were easily Skylanders by Activision and Disney Infinity by, well, Disney. And although some worthwhile competitors stepped into the ring, the only ones that had a lick of success were LEGO Dimensions and Amiibo. Similarly to Goldfish, their mistreatment led to their ultimate and untimely demise. Skylanders was first released in 2011, releasing 5 more games over the course of the following 5 years, which is incredibly impressive if you ask me, even from publishers that are well adjusted to yearly releases. These 6 games were entitled Spyro's Adventure, Giants, Swap Force, Trap Team, Superchargers, and Imaginators, each with the Skylanders prefix. And while I had moved on from the series before Imaginators even released, partially due to the fact that I did not enjoy the mechanics and the level design of Superchargers at all, it's clear by the general review scores that the general population had enough. While there are others, it's clear as day that the primary culprit was Oversaturation. Cue the spooky music. That's good. Oversaturation is defined as a saturation to an excessive degree, or flooding the market with your own products, or a product similar to your own. One can argue that there are many oversaturated markets when it comes to video games, too many indie platformers, too many first-person shooter games, but I counter. There's still too many sports games. And besides that, there are many specific subgenres of those genres. There's the looter shooter, or the competitive shooter. For every tough-as-nails platformer that you swear off in the first 10 minutes, there's Baby's First Platformer. This is because there needs to be something for everyone, every specific niche, every interest, and every demographic. In other words, there needs to be something for every gamer. With the new Toys to Life genre, there was a whole different type of oversaturation. You see, as you may have guessed, the whole gimmick of games like these is that you buy more toys for the same game that you can beat with the few that came with it. So when you had whole Target aisles get taken up by these fancy action figures, it gets a little annoying. And to add insult to injury, by the time the next game in the series would release, your potential hundreds of dollars spent on the best characters from the previous game would be, although still compatible, almost completely overshadowed by the new ones on the front of the box. Let's run some numbers. I'll go over the 3 main franchises that spawned out of this movement: Skylanders, Disney Infinity, and LEGO Dimensions. And then, I don't know, maybe I'll do something crazy like name drop the exact amount of amiibo. May or may not be, carry the 1, subtract for the variable, adjust for inflation, run through the quadratic formula, 183. The first game's roster was originally around 32 characters, bumping it up to 72 with the 40 added in Giants. 32 more were added in Swap Force, and almost 100 playable characters were in Trap Team. However, take this number with a grain of salt, as the trappable villains and the Eons Elite series are included. Around 20 vehicles and 20 characters were added in Superchargers, rounding up the lineup with 31 more in the final game. That's 32 plus 40 plus 32 plus 100 plus 20 plus 20 plus 31, which is 275 Skylanders, though you can add or subtract a few as there have been reworks, variants, and reimaginings of certain characters. Wait, no, that can't be right. The creation crystals of Imaginators add pretty much infinite Skylanders, but those don't really stock shelves, so let's just say there's 275. And I don't really see them stopping anytime soon. So when you tally them up, guesstimating that there are around 100 total LEGO Dimensions characters, there were a ton of LEGO Dimensions sets, and I'm not sure if I could figure out an exact number, so here's the Wikipedia list of represented franchises. Over the course of 3 games, there were 36 in Disney Infinity, 32 in 2.0, and 13 in 3.0, tallying up to 81 characters. And there's 183 amiibo. Wait, that can't be right. That's... Oh, that's right. 639 action figures over the course of 5 years. That's an average of 127.8 figures per year. That's insane. A typical starter pack included 3 toys, the game, and whatever NFC interface they decided to use. usually consisting of a portal of some kind. If you play all the Toys to Life games, that's still about 125 figures to collect per year. So if we put aside $300 for the starter packs, then the usual $15 figure means about $1,975 per year for 5 years. If you wanted every Toys to Life character, game, figure, whatever, it would cost around $10,000. Are you kidding me? That's ludicrous. To put that in comparison, that's a couple months' rent in New York City. Who in their right mind thought this was a good idea? Wait, of course. How could I have been so naive? And wait, now that I think about it, it was never about providing a cool experience for the player, was it? It was about mass producing some cheap plastic figurines that broke all the time, planting a glorified QR code in their bases, and selling them all at a horrific markup. Disney Infinity was an action-adventure sandbox game developed by not one, but two developers. I think it makes total sense for Disney to hop on the bandwagon that was Toys to Life. They saw Skylanders succeeding and thought, well, we own 39% of the world. Can you guess what the other 71% is? Water. It's water. After combining a slew of Star Wars, Disney, Pixar, and Marvel characters, the game was a sandbox dream. And I've got to admit, from a business perspective, Disney Infinity is way more marketable than Skylanders ever was. Because, except for Spyro, the good majority of Skylanders were original characters. With Disney, they were established IPs, meaning that if you were a fan of Disney, you would buy the Disney Infinity figures because you wanted more figures or merchandise, and if you didn't, then here's a Yoda, put it on your shelf or something. I remember playing this game at a friend's house a few years ago and just never being all that interested. However, if you're interested, I would encourage you to try it out. My dumb brain can't really be trusted when it comes to remembering how good a game's quality is. But I trust my dumb brain, so I'm probably not going to play it again. You can get it for dirt cheap. I mean, pennies are more valuable than this game. But hey, at least Disney made some good money off this. No wonder every business decided to hop on this trend. Did you know that the LEGO games are made by Warner Bros. Interactive? Well, the big WB also owns a lot of properties. Famous ones too, like Lord of the Rings and Back to the Future. This means that, similarly to Disney, they could establish a pretty deep world without doing much world building. And, well, people liked LEGO games that they've already made, so why not? I've got a pretty big why not. By the time that they got around to making a Toys to Life game, they had already been beaten out by Activision and Disney. I called this one, above all, stocking the shelves the most, not because people wanted it and so they overstocked, just because it couldn't sell. In an article by Eurogamer, it is explained that they included a minifigure vehicle or other LEGO characters, and thus they had to be sold at a pretty hefty margin. However, as sales were dwindling for the year 1 packs, the profit margins were virtually gone. This is because they used actual LEGO bricks, which are held to an incredibly high degree of quality during the manufacturing process. Amiibo was first released on June 10th, 2014 during the Wii U and 3DS era. Like the majority of Toys to Life figures, they used near-field communication, or NFC, to transmit the figure data through a spot on the 3DS or a spot on the Wii U gamepad. This functionality later expanded to the Joy-Cons and the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. Instead of having the Toys to Life figures in their own game, the consumer can pick and choose in accordance to with not only the games they owned, but the characters they liked. However, this does draw back on the practical appeal of Amiibo, as most of them provided some minor bonuses. Unless you're Skyward Sword HD, I guess. Amiibo is currently the only Toys to Life brand still in production. In fact, they're still adding figures to the roster. So now that we've touched on the major Toys to Life brands, here are what I think most of them did well, in a format I'll call One Sentence Reviews, the series where I review something in one sentence. Skylanders was the most fun of the Toys to Life games, being a surprisingly good action platformer with surprisingly good level design. Disney Infinity had the most well-known characters, making it pretty easy to pick up and play with one of your favorite Disney characters. LEGO Dimensions was best for traditional LEGO collectors, however it has the most variety in terms of properties. Amiibo had the best marketability because there wasn't a series or strict brand that was a part of it. Instead, the wide array of Nintendo properties employed allowed the line to thrive as both a collection of toys or a game enhancement. So, what went wrong? The first issue was price. Nobody wants to pay $100 annually to play the new Skylanders game. plus around $15 more for any bonus characters you may want or need. This is per character, by the way. Over time, especially if you're playing these games casually, it may be hard to track which work best for the game you have, what you need to play the game, any expansions they may have, and overall why there are so many different figures. By the time the series were wrapping up, a clear separation of quality was found. Personally, as a player who kept up with the Skylanders games, the series peaked with Trap Team and stumbled downhill fast from there, to the point where I never even finished Superchargers, and as I've stated previously, there becomes a point in almost every long-standing product's lifecycle where their creators run out of ideas and things begin to go stale. Don't get me wrong, the new content is appreciated, maybe even praised, but at the same time, it devalues all the wonderful content that came before it simply due to the fact that the illusion of ever-expanding end-all be-all live service is crumbling with a lack of ambition. Eventually, the charm that the game had wears off, and the game no longer resembles what it used to be. By the time Imaginators rolled out, the general decline in sales and unfavorable critic scores led it to be the last game currently in the series. LEGO Dimensions was simply let go by the developers TT Games, who make all the LEGO games, which I happen to significantly enjoy. I am so excited for the LEGO Star Wars revival. By 2017, they had been working on LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2 and the LEGO Ninjago movie game, and in October 2017, the series was officially cancelled. Disney Infinity was cancelled in May of 2016, shutting down the developer Avalanche Studios with it. While declining sales and lack of interest wasn't a direct cause of the cancellation, rather Disney's lack of interest in making games, similar to the shutdown of Club Penguin. Amiibo is doing fine, but old series get revived all the time. Could they come back? I suppose Skylanders is the only one that really could. There have been many Skylanders related shows on Netflix, and the series has never been outwardly cancelled. In a 2017 investors call, it was reported that there wouldn't be a Skylanders game that year. However, it's still entirely possible that there could be a new game in the form of Skylanders 7, but what I think would be a better alternative, a remaster or reimagining of either Spyro's Adventure or Giants. However, Activision's greedy hands got to the developers first. Unfortunately, the developer of Skylanders, Toys for Bob, has been absorbed into the Call of Duty machine, working primarily on Warzone. Thus, I don't think we'll ever be getting a next-gen remaster or a new game. Until people get tired of Warzone, that is. Activision has so many devs, I'd assume it would be pretty easy to gather a group of people to focus on Warzone. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's like 3 different developer companies working on this game. And yeah, I know COD developers cycle, but I'm referring to just Warzone. While I wish any of these properties would rise from the dead, the best I can do at this moment is encourage you to revisit, or visit for the first time, any of these games. Whether the developers have moved on, their priorities have shifted, or the developers have been absorbed into a new project, you should still probably give these games a chance. I promise you won't regret it. Unless you're Nintendo, go back to printing money. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you liked what you saw, and as always, any and all feedback is greatly appreciated.